I'm worried that personal information might leak if things continue like this. What should I do? Amidst colleagues at my new job looking down on me and gossiping, there's one beautiful department head who treats me kindly. That lady is wearing a worried expression. But here I am, just a janitor. Although I used to work in the information department, I decided to quit hacking after that day. But if I let this go unnoticed, she might end up taking the blame, just like I did back then. Could I borrow your computer? Before I knew it, I found myself rushing into her office. Back then, personal computers weren't as common, and terms like hacker weren't mainstream yet. My father was a pioneer in that field. He handled numerous confidential information not only in America, but also in famous overseas companies and government agencies. And that expertise that was sought after worldwide was passed down to me, his son. My name is Aidan Shine. I received special education in information investigation from my father, who was active in the forefront since I was a child. This industry continues to evolve rapidly. My father, who was always at the forefront, was falsely accused of information leakage amidst the competition between major companies and withdrew from that world when I was in high school. Despite his efforts to clear his name and regain trust, he was easily discarded as he was in a freelance position and received no protection from anyone. The companies my father was involved with protected their employees, and all scandals were blamed on my father. Although it didn't turn into a criminal case, perhaps due to some shady dealings within the company, my father's unusual occupation at the time made it a sensation in the media. I was bullied at school because of it, and my mother, who had been working as a regular employee in place of my father, was suddenly fired for no reason. My father, who was completely despondent, ended up hospitalized due to stress and passed away from illness. "Never pursue this kind of work, son." Those were my father's last words to me. For me, my father's existence was something to be proud of. That's when I promised myself to always protect my father's honor. After graduating from high school, I graduated from an IT-related technical school and joined a major company's information management department. My job was what you'd call a white-hat hacker. It's not an exaggeration to say that we're the backbone of the company, responsible for defense against unauthorized access as well as daily information management and security monitoring with just a few people on the team. I took this job not only to use the techniques taught to me by my father, but also to stay in this industry and someday clear my father's name. But since it's a small industry, if I use my father's last name, I'll be exposed immediately. So, I joined a company under my mother's maiden name, Faith. There were new recruits like me. One of them was Sean Ashley, my classmate. We had been competing with each other since our school days, attending the same school. That said, we weren't particularly close. We were aware of each other's existence and had been competing. I hardly remember having a conversation with Sean during our school days. I think we had our first casual conversation at the entrance ceremony. He was the one who started the conversation. "Faith, so you decided to come here too. You did too. You must have received offers from several companies, right?" "Yeah, I did. But in the end I thought I could fully utilize my abilities here more than anywhere else." True. Even though it's just one department within the company, it's at the cutting edge. Companies specializing in information security were still rare back then, and most technicians like us ended up working for major companies or government agencies. Even among them, this company also develops related devices, so they have state-of-the-art equipment. Many new graduates hope to work here, but the company didn't have many job openings every year, so the competition was tough with triple-digit application rates. So, as fellow newcomers, let's continue to get along. Yeah. Among this year's new employees, only Sean and I were hired for the information department. Including us, there were only 7 people working in the information department protected by security. In my elite department, everyone took pride in their work. The atmosphere was very comfortable, and before I knew it, I was completely immersed in my work, forgetting about clearing my father's regret. And around 6 years after joining the company, I was promoted to section chief for my recognized abilities. Why is that? As I went to the personnel department to receive the appointment as section chief, a familiar voice echoed through the corridor. Peeking into the room, I saw Sean standing in front of the personnel manager, seemingly making a complaint. I hesitated to enter the room, unsure of when to speak up. I'm more talented than Aiden, my fellow new hire. Are you telling me to be his subordinate? I listened intently to my name, involuntarily uttered. Anyway, I can't agree with this personnel decision. Well, regardless, this is a directive from the CEO. The CEO values faith, and his evaluation within the company is indeed high. This isn't school, you know. Unable to endure the personnel manager's stern words, Sean turned on his heel and headed towards me. I passed Sean, who jumps out at the entrance of the door. Sean yelled at me the moment he made eye contact. You've always been like this since school, huh? You were good at sucking up to the teachers. With a click of his tongue in passing, Sean glared at me and left. Indeed, thinking back, Sean always had higher grades than me during our school days. Sean excelled in written exams and always ranked top 1 or 2 within the school. As for me, my grades were just above the average in written exams. I managed to maintain my grades for practical exams. But back then, the teachers told me that practical skills were more important than written exams, and it wasn't a lie that I had confidence in my father's inherited skills. However, I can understand that it would be hard for him to accept being my subordinate. The personnel manager seemed to see through my inner thoughts and said, "Your abilities have been recognized. There's nothing to hesitate about," as he handed me the appointment letter. But after being promoted to section chief, Sean stopped talking to me. Remember, he's still young. Don't worry about him. Just carry yourself with dignity. There's no need to abandon your professional curiosity over something like this," said Mr. Arnold, my immediate supervisor, reassuringly. And the other senior employees also looked favorably upon my promotion. I gradually became accustomed to my duties and position as a manager. "So, you're using your mother's surname, huh?" Sean, unusually, struck up a conversation with me. "My father isn't around, so I'm using my mother's surname. Is there a problem with that? It's unusual to change your surname even though it wasn't due to divorce but death." Sean persistently kept harassing me in a nasty way. "So, my mother decided it. When I entered school, I had already used my mother's maiden name. Is there a reason behind it?" Sean's persistent questioning was probably because he found out about my father. I took a deep breath. "While he wasn't prosecuted, what your father did was a crime, right?" The employees who were there became noisy at Sean's words. "This is your father, right?" He handed me an old article printed from the internet, triumphantly thrusting it at me. "Yeah. Since then, I've been treated as the son of a criminal within the company. Furthermore, I was falsely accused of causing a communication failure in the company, which even a high school student could understand, and was transferred to a remote location by the company. This was essentially a demotion, but my immediate boss, Mr. Arnold, was the only one who believed in me until the end. I'll investigate the communication failure and find a culprit, so don't rush. You'll definitely be able to return to the head office." He said that, but I no longer had the energy for that. Being falsely accused like my father and driven out of the company. Feeling resigned to the vicissitudes of life, I wanted to escape from here. "Thank you for believing in me, but I want to quit this industry already. So, I'm resigning." Despite my age, my salary was high and I was living in a luxury condominium with my mother, but I sold it and moved to a slightly cheaper apartment. For a while, I went on solo trips, looked for hobbies, and tried to distract myself. But I decided to look for a new job because I had too much time on my hands. This time, I'll look for a job in a completely different industry. While browsing job postings, I decided to apply to a company that caught my eye. I thought it was a long shot, but I managed to get hired, and I started working with a fresh start. The new job was a janitor position. It's a job I chose because I wanted to try something completely different from my previous work. I was hired as an employee by a company responsible for cleaning and building management, but the actual workplace is an office contracted by the company. The company I was assigned to was a major corporation. It was a large building similar in size to the one I worked at before, and I spent my days cleaning there. There were 5 janitors dispatched, but I was the oldest among the employees. The rest were young part-time workers or retirees working as part-timers. "Good morning," As I turned around at the cheerful voice, I saw the figure of Emily Fossil, the head of the Human Resources Department, walking briskly and upright. She was an elite who became a department head at the young age of 33. Emily was a well-known figure in the company, known for her beauty and title. Yet, she was approachable and kind to everyone. However, there were a small number of people in the company who treated us janitors as if we were nuisances, deliberately kicking buckets or bumping into us. Especially, it seemed that I was disliked by the general employees of the company, and sometimes I was ridiculed to my face or behind my back, saying things like, "At that age, being a janitor means it's all over for you," or "He's apparently not capable of anything else, so he's doing cleaning." But Emily was the only one who, regardless of where or when, never wavered in her demeanor and always smiled at everyone equally. She was someone everyone admired. Shortly after joining the company, I found a pergola in the back garden while cleaning. When I went there to have lunch with my lunchbox, a voice greeted me. "Oh, there's already someone here." It was Emily. "I also like to spend my lunch breaks here. It's a wonderful hidden spot within the sterile company premises." The beautiful department head, who everyone admired, sat down next to me without hesitation, and she took out a sandwich and coffee from her bag. "Let's eat." She then opened her mouth wide and took a big bite of the sandwich, looking completely different from how she usually appeared in the office. "Hey there. It's hard to eat with you staring at me like that." Emily noticed my gaze and took a sip of coffee before looking at me. "I'm sorry. I thought you'd be a more serious person." Emily burst into laughter at my honest opinion. Impressions can be scary, you know. Although I do take my job seriously. I was raised between two older brothers and a younger brother. People always say I have a big gap between my appearance and how I am. Although she seemed troubled as she spoke, she didn't seem to mind at all. "You're straightforward, huh? I think it's great. Without that kind of attitude, you couldn't be a department head at your age." "You think so?" she replied, opening her mouth to laugh. Despite being beautiful, she didn't put on airs, and her natural demeanor impressed me. And so, we gradually became closer as we spent our lunch breaks together. We didn't make any specific plans, so it was lucky whenever we met. But when we were alone without anyone interrupting us, our intimacy naturally grew. Before I knew it, meeting Emily during lunch break became the highlight of my daily life. Even during work, when we met in the hallway, Emily would greet me warmly. When she saw me cleaning, she would always say, "Thank you for your hard work." Sometimes we would have small talk. She was originally a straightforward person, so she didn't treat me differently from anyone else. But I was envied and praised by those around me for being able to talk to Emily like this. "It's so enviable that you're close with Director Fossil, Mr. Shine." As he swept outside, a colleague who was about a decade younger than me said to me, "Close? Nah, that's just how she is with everyone, right? She's not shy around anyone and doesn't treat anyone differently. People just overhype it." But I've never talked to her even once. Really. It was surprising. I feel a slight sense of superiority in being able to have a normal conversation with Emily, the high-flying flower of our workplace. Surprisingly, I find myself enjoying coming to work, including this aspect. While my previous job involved sitting in front of a computer screen, the current job, which involves using my body, seems surprisingly enjoyable, and perhaps it suits me. Oh, but it's tough when you become friendly with Director Fossil. The jealousy from other employees can be intense, you know. Maybe it's better for me to just watch from afar. "What do you mean? Huh? Mr. Shine, didn't you notice? You're always being snide to. They say it's because you're close to Director Fossil. They say you don't know your place, getting close to the head of HR just because you are a mere cleaner. Didn't you know that?" While it seemed that some employees still disliked me, I hadn't thought that Emily was the reason. "Oh, is that so?" I couldn't help but laugh. Until now, I hadn't paid attention, but I couldn't understand why I, just a cleaner, was looked down upon and ridiculed by these strangers. Realizing it was just jealousy, I felt relieved, but at the same time, I found the motive's childishness amusing. I laughed so much that my colleagues looked at me with curiosity. I was worried that there might have been something wrong with my work, so knowing the reason is a relief. Since becoming a cleaner, I've done research and put in effort. Even just removing dirt requires knowing the type of detergent depending on the cause of the dirt. While researching such things, I found more effective methods, which made things cleaner in a short time. Cleaning is also deep and rewarding. Thanks to this, I won a contest for cleaning staff recommended for participation, and my salary even increased a bit. During lunch break one day, I reported my victory in the contest to Emily, as we ate together as usual. In response, Emily's eyes sparkled as she repeatedly said, "Amazing. Congratulations." I felt embarrassed by the excessive praise. That's enough. I've been praised enough, and I'm feeling good enough as it is. No matter what job it is, it's wonderful to strive until you're satisfied with the results, maintaining a professional spirit. Her words reminded me of the time when my father used to guide me, as well as Mr. Arnold, my former boss, who believed in me. My previous boss at the company said similar things. I see. People are watching, after all. Both your efforts and your results shine. I think it's typical of an HR manager to evaluate people like that. Was my way of saying it too pompous? Emily quickly covered her mouth with both hands. Her gesture was cute. Have those who envy me ever seen her like this? Even though it's only for a short time, I feel a growing sense of joy in having her all to myself like this. However, the calm atmosphere was suddenly shattered by the ringing of Emily's internal phone. "Hello. What's up? Hut, from where? Anyway, I'll be back soon." Emily hurriedly hung up the phone and started tidying up her half-eaten lunch. "Sorry, I have to go back because it's an emergency. Take care." Feeling a strange atmosphere, I bid her farewell with words that seemed out of place. Alone for the rest of the time, I returned to the cleaning staff's dedicated lounge to prepare for the afternoon's work. On the way, I took a detour to pass by the HR department, where I heard Emily's voice. "Has there been any contact from the security company yet? Did the system not detect anything?" While I felt guilty for eavesdropping on a fragmented conversation, I listened attentively. It seemed that there had been unauthorized access to the HR department's computer. As an outsider, I shouldn't get involved, and I had already decided not to do hacker work anymore. But I couldn't overlook Emily in trouble. I felt like I could do something about this situation. Unable to stand still, I rushed into the HR department's manager's office. "What are you doing here? Outsiders are prohibited from entering now. Please postpone cleaning for later." The section chief of the HR department, who thought I had come to clean, tried to drive me away. I used to work in the information department in my previous job. I even held a position there. I can definitely be of help. We've already contacted the security company. Besides, we have capable employees in our company. It's none of your business. And we wouldn't let an outsider tamper with important security anyway. But then Emily, who had been watching me from behind, spoke up. The security company said it would take another 30 minutes for them to arrive. After a moment's thought, she invited me in. "I'll ask Mr. Shine to do it. I'll take responsibility if anything happens. Please." There was a stir around us. "Are you serious? If it causes damage to the company, it won't just be the HR manager losing their job." Amidst the unanimous opposition, I sat down in front of the computer. I was confident, but I couldn't inconvenience Emily. As I began the analysis, it was indeed a large corporation, and they had deployed the latest systems to detect and defend against unauthorized intrusions. With the intrusion type into the network written down, anything other than normal communication should be detected and blocked. But it had been breached. If left as it is, the personal information of employees would be extracted and leaked. While communicating with the security company staff on the phone, I immersed myself in the work, carefully tracing the unauthorized access that was likely planted during the small gaps in updates. Then I noticed something, ironically, that helped me to handle the situation more smoothly than I had expected. The security company staff who were dealing with it remotely, the people who had rushed to the scene, and even the employees who had looked down on and ridiculed me, all praised my skills together. I looked around the crowd, searching for Emily's presence. When our eyes met, she gave me a relieved smile. "Thank you. We really appreciate you being here, Mr. Shine." Being thanked in such a formal manner made me feel quite embarrassed. 2 weeks have passed since then. It turned out that Sean was the one behind that unauthorized access incident. Having studied at the same school and worked at the same workplace, I could easily predict Sean's pattern of retracing the steps he had taken. Once I realized that, the analysis became easy. While I continue to work as a cleaner, the environment around me has changed significantly. The employees who used to ridicule me now speak to me politely. Furthermore, the former HR manager from my previous company came to apologize and invited me to return to the company. Sean's false accusation against me was quickly cleared up. Not only that, but after I left, it seems Mr. Arnold used his connections to look into my father as well. Despite only working together once, Mr. Arnold and my father were somehow acquainted. Even though you only had that relationship, why did you bother to look into it? Because your father. He helped me out when I was in a bind. When Mr. Arnold was in trouble, he once asked my father, who was famous in the industry, for help, and everything was resolved without incident. That was more than enough now. I still enjoy my job as a cleaner. Spending every day with Emily during lunch breaks at this place where she is enjoyable and fulfilling. Are you going to buy lunch today? If so, as a token of appreciation, let me treat you to lunch outside. With Emily's invitation, I went out for lunch during that day's lunch break. So, have you thought about it? Not in a trendy cafe, but at Emily's favorite diner. We sat across from each other, eating hamburgers and French fries. Hey, are you listening? You've been lost in thought this whole time. Oh, sorry. After finishing the hamburgers, Emily's sulking face was right in front of me. Our eyes met unintentionally, and my heart raced. We're going to set up an information management office within the department, and I want you to be the head of that office. That's not a bad offer, right? Seeing that, Emily flashed an innocent smile. I already feel fulfilled enough as it is, but is it okay to wish for more? I want to work with you. That's why. Blushing, Emily turned her face away with a pout. Her ears were bright red. With her saying that, there was no reason for me to refuse anymore. At that time, your father was like a hero. With a slightly enraptured expression, Emily continued to speak. I've heard that story too many times already. My daughter, now a middle school student, brushed off Emily's story as she looked at her phone. You should marry someone like your father. With an annoyed expression, my daughter lazily replied, "Yay, yeah," while lying down on the sofa, still looking at her phone. Undeterred, Emily continued to speak. Let's leave it at that. I interrupted Emily's story with a laugh. Today is our 20th wedding anniversary. Emily and I toast with the wine our daughter gave us and enjoy our hamburgers facing each other.